Hey, everybody. Welcome to Locker Room. This is Southland's podcast for men where we read demons, conversations, talk about the right things in the right ways. My name is Scott Hatfield. Thanks for checking out the podcast. This podcast is all about creating a culture of strong, godly men that fight for the most important things as we seek generational change. A couple things up top. Apologize for the voice. It's this time of year where we're all kind of getting sick. So,
I like it.
Well, it's as JR said, it's Locker Room after dark.
He actually smoked a pack right before he walked in here.
I get nervous.
Just to give the rasp.
It takes the tension off. It's funny. I was saying something to Lydia this morning, Lydia Florence. I was like, man, I feel like Barry White or something. She goes, who's that?
Oh, no. Oh,
so, anyway, a couple things up top, and then we'll get to these great guys that I'm going to get to spend some time with today. But we kick off our group session at Southland in January. A lot of different groups that our locker room community can be involved in. I'll tell you about a couple. The first one is a group that I lead called Fight Club. It's a 15-week big group. We just wrapped up in Lexington, and it was phenomenal, and I'm so excited about an opportunity to get to do this again in Danville. Lots of great people down there, and excited about getting to pour into some men's lives. We're all trying to figure out how to follow Jesus in a greater way, invest in our marriages and our kids' lives, and live our lives on mission. And so Fight Club's just a great way to discover that. And we start Fight Club on January 20th at the Danville campus. And listen, if you're in Danville, you got to come and be a part of that. If you are from another campus, you're always welcome. We have guys from other campuses show up there, and it's for high school age on up. And so totally welcome to do that. If you know people down there, let them know about it. You can sign up at southland.church/groups. Another group that's easy to do this, in fact, two groups really, is a locker room group or a sermon group. And so those two groups are, it's really easy. You come over the weekend and capture the sermon from John or Scott, and then there's some notes that are on our website where you can gather. There's questions for you to ask, and it's just easy to kind of dig out what they've been talking about. Another form of that is the locker room group, where all you got to do, it's the easiest group to lead. You listen or watch Locker Room, you invite some guys to join you, and you spend some time together talking about the questions that are in the show notes. And so that's really, really helpful. So, and if you're not looking for that, that's totally fine. Another group, all kinds of groups, southland.church/groups to check out what's in our directory. We got groups at all different campuses, groups for men, groups for marriages, groups that serve, divorce care. And the key to our spiritual growth is in direct proportion to who we surround ourselves with. And so don't get on the sidelines, get off the islands and get into a group. One last thing, and then we'll get in, is our marriage workshop. It's a 2-day event geared toward engaged couples and then those couples that are married, been married for 5 years or less. It's an opportunity for you to invest in your marriage, tune up your marriage, get prepared for your marriage. Our next marriage workshop is March 7th and 8th. It's a Friday, Saturday. We'll do it at the Lexington campus. If you're interested or you know somebody else that might really benefit from it, you can go to southland.church/marriage. So all of that done.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Go to the marriage event. If you are engaged or thinking about it, or if you're newly married, I can attest to this, to just go, that is one of the most important things that you can do to set up your marriage on the right track. Yeah. Do not put that thing off. Yeah. Like, for your marriage, for your family, go to that event.
Yes.
Go and dig deep into the questions and the conversations that are asked. That thing is huge. Please, if you're engaged, please, or newly married, go to that thing.
I love
Save your marriage before it needs to be saved.
This guy spends a little time in communication.
That matters, man. I didn't have that.
Yeah.
I didn't have that. I got a meeting with a pastor once, and then I got married, and I was like, what am I doing? So
I don't want to say too much, but I wasn't as prepared as I'd like to have been either for marriage.
So don't put that off. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. The two guys that I get to meet with today are friends. They serve here. We are teammates, and I love the way that they serve and the way that they lead. And so you may not have captured it yet. You may recognize one of those voices, but it's Neil Gregory and Mike Allen. How are you guys?
Good, man.
Doing great, man.
Good to have you all. Good to have you guys. Big church, lots of campuses. Not everybody knows everybody. And so I'd love for you to share a little bit about your families, the role that you play at our church, campus or campuses that you support, and how long you've been on staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm Mike Allen, married to Natalie.
Best beard on the staff.
The best beard. It's so annoying.
Great hair.
There's a guy.
Thomas Rhett. Everybody says,
Dude,
I'm sure.
I have a great story about that.
Do you?
Yeah. I was at the Ryman seeing Ricky Skaggs.
Yes.
I'm sitting in the balcony. There's this lady, probably 80 years old, sitting right next to me. And she leans over and she's like, I'm not going to make a scene, but you're Thomas Rhett, aren't you? And I was like, No, man.
no.
Yeah, I should have just gone with it, but
He does love the Lord.
yeah, he does.
Which is
I said if I was Thomas Rhett, I'd be sitting down there.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah,
awesome.
married to Natalie for 7 years now.
Yeah.
We have a blended family, 5 kids, ranging in age from 20 to 5. So,
Gotcha.
Man.
And I serve here at the Nicholasville campus. Serve our music team.
Yeah.
And been here about 3.5 years now.
That's awesome, buddy. That's awesome.
Awesome.
How about
Well, I'm
you,
Neil. I've been married to Emily for a long time. I just blanked 16 years? 15, 16, 17? I don't know. We've been married for a long time. You kind
There's
of
a marriage workshop coming up.
We have 2 kids, 11 and 13, soon to be 12 and 14, which is weird.
Girls, buddy.
2 girls. Yep.
Yeah, I
love
love
them. They are amazing. I'm a girl dad.
Yeah.
We've got a dog as well. Okay. Lucy, she's great.
Lucy,
she's
girl
great.
dog too.
Oh man, girl dog, girl family.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've been at Southland for over 13 years now. It'll be 14 in April.
Okay,
and I get to work on kind of the central support. So the team that I get to be a part of, we support all the different ministries here at Southland. So whether it's creative, so like graphic design, video production, communications, those type of things, we get to support all the ministries as they get to do what they do. And man, super grateful for the opportunity to be able to do that. I feel like that's really unique in a church world to kind of be in the creative world side of things. So man, just super excited to get to do that.
You have your hands in so many different things. And you have so many teams, a lot of horses, man. A lot of creativity and excellence, intentionality as it relates to the website, the weekends,
it's everything.
Video stuff. I mean, it's really incredible, man. We really have it's an embarrassment of riches just as it relates to our staff. And so as we talk about just serving on staff at Southland, what do you love about serving on staff here? And what do you love about the teams that you get to interact with?
Yeah. I love the team I get to work with.
Yeah.
Like I love the people. We're highly collaborative. They all get it. You know what I mean? Like ministry can be really hard, and sometimes it's really easy in the creative world to like make it about you and all the things you can create. And man, our team is just highly engaged into the mission at Southland, and it's not about us. We want to get out of the way, and we want to support ministries to be able to honestly support what they're doing to get people closer to Jesus and make him known as best as possible. And so I love the team. And I mean, we get to work at a church to help people grow closer to Jesus.
That's awesome.
What?
Yeah.
Like that's the most humbling and honoring thing that we get to do is, and we that's a job. That's incredible.
We get to do this. I say this all the time. I do.
It's unreal. So that's one of my favorite things. So
that's awesome.
Agreed. For me, I've served at several different churches through 20 plus years of full-time ministry, and Southland is by far the healthiest church I've ever been a part of. It has the most focused leadership. I love what Scott and John do, elders. It's just it's incredible. And serving on the music team is pretty awesome too. Like I have imposter syndrome a lot. Like I sit in a room with some of the most talented people I've ever even met.
Stupid talented. Like what in the world?
Yeah, and it's just super humbling. They're all very humble, and we all get along really well, and we laugh a lot together, and we have a lot of good times. So it's tons of fun.
Ministry's so hard, but yet it's so rich when you get to do it with great people. So it's awesome. I'm going to kick off season 14. I did a standalone by myself last week, so this is newly introduced. But I wanted to ask all the guests that come on 3 questions before we even get into the topic. And so I'm excited about just hearing the diversity of feedback and answers. And so here's the first question. I'd love for you to talk about a godly man, a mentor, someone that has been so significant in your life that just has had a huge impact on you. What's something that they did or helped you experience, or something that they taught you or spoke to you? Anything come to mind for you guys?
Yeah, I have a buddy who's, I don't know, 13 years older than me, something like that. He goes to church here. I met him before I came here. His name's Blake Jones.
Oh, yeah.
He's a therapist, so that's always helpful, having a friend who's a therapist. So great,
always analyzing you.
Great listener. Yeah.
Why am I paranoid?
Like, what is wrong?
Why am I
with me?
paranoid right now?
Yeah. But just a very godly man, and he really helped me through divorce, and he ended up going through a divorce as well, and so we've just kind of connected through that, and he's just been a great mentor. He always has great like real world advice, but also spiritual advice, and that's been huge for me.
What was one of the ways he helped you through that season of your life? What were some of the things he did or said?
The biggest thing was like just time spent. Like he would contact me to make sure I was okay. He would say, "Can I bring you lunch to the office or whatever?" He would just check in on me all the time.
That's huge.
And and I didn't know I needed it, but when he did it was like, man, that was the shot in the arm that I needed. So
sometimes ministry is just about being available and being intentional and going out of your way and helping somebody that they can't even see maybe sometimes where they are. So how about you, Neil?
My brother was the first thing that came to my head. He was really pivotal. I lived with him for 7 or 8 months when I was in school, in college.
You said older brother?
My older brother. He's 8 years older than me.
Gotcha.
And he was married. When I was living with them, his wife was pregnant and had a baby. So I saw a lot of him learning to be a dad while also being a husband and balancing work and all of that. And I just... it was really beneficial for me because I was not married to Emily. We weren't even engaged. We were just long distance dating.
Yeah.
And so there were just a lot of things that I saw him and my sister-in-law do that I went, ooh, I want that.
Yeah.
So he didn't, I don't know if it was necessarily him like investing intentionally, like I'm going to bring you under my wing, but man, just by the way that he lived his life, I got to see behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And the person that he was behind closed doors was the same person that he was outside in the real world. And that just spoke volumes to me. His character, all those different things, his work ethic, like a lot of that came into play, and just how he treated his wife and how he loved her so well. And like that was priority. Family was priority for him over what he did. That was huge for me and my wife when we kind of got together. I was like, hey, this is going to sound weird, but I want the marriage my brother has. She was like, I don't know. Okay, that's weird. But like, I got to see it firsthand.
Sure.
So that was pretty big for me. He was a big influence on me growing up.
It's funny. Sometimes it's not even what they say to us. It's what was caught, and you caught his life and saw him inside and outside in different relationships. And so that's really powerful. All right. So both are married. What's something that you're working on right now that's been really, really helpful as it relates to just investing in your marriage, your wife? Is there one thing that sticks out to you that you've been doing?
Walking.
Yeah.
My wife and I have really, like 2024, we've just decided we're going to go on walks. So I think we've walked over 350 miles together.
I love it.
We try and do like 3 miles at a time.
Yeah.
And when we don't walk, we both look at each other like, I miss you. Like we don't get to like,
it's
it's intentional. It's just her and I. Yeah. And like, we're intentional. We put our phones away. Yeah. We start a little walking app workout and we try and get those miles in. But man, it's just intentional time. And we're talking the whole time. Like we feel the most connected. And I realized, man, I miss it when we don't get it. Because we're just, life happens and that intentional time with each other, we're so connected.
That is such a simple thing to do.
Oh, the most simple.
Yeah.
Like and I didn't even realize it until, it starts to get cold or rainy. I'm like, oh, we're not going to walk. And then I go into bed and I'm like, hey, we didn't really talk today. She's like, yeah, we didn't walk. I went, oh yeah, we gotta get back to walking. And that's a physical thing that we're both enjoying the benefits of, but relationally, it's so simple, but so effective.
I would imagine your arguments go way down when you walk. And when you don't
because
walk,
everyone recognizes us while we're walking in the neighborhood.
Yeah, but I mean, you're connecting, you're talking, you're outside your home, you're able to focus, and sometimes it's just catching up. Sometimes it's about deeper things or praying together, and that's awesome.
It's great.
That's really cool. How about you?
Yeah. So for us, it's music. It's
cool.
Live music specifically,
Okay.
and that's what we do together. And so we'll, through the year we'll buy tickets to a show, and that way we know we have like this built-in date, and it's even better if we can go to Nashville or something and get away for a couple days.
The drive down, time
the drive,
and
just time before and after the show and all that, and it's just we both love music and connect. We really connect with God through music, and
cool.
So that's it for us.
That's awesome. Here's a big one. What are you doing right now to invest in your kids? And again, sometimes I think we make this way harder or more complicated than it has to be. But what's something that you're doing just intentionally to invest or weed or seed, things like that, in just invest in your kiddos?
Yeah.
For me, it's just like looking for teachable moments, like in the car, or because the kids, like, it seems like they ask big questions in the car. I don't know why. Like really big questions.
Now that I have you and you're not distracted.
Yeah, maybe it's because they're looking out the window at the sky or whatever.
Right.
This is a funny story. My son, who's 5, Ellis, we're sitting on Nicholasville Road not long ago, and he's looking out the window at the power lines.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Look, Dad, it's God's guitar strings."
Oh, that's awesome.
What? I was like,
I love the way
how
kids
did he
think.
come up with that? But, but they're always asking questions, and they're always, experiencing hard things, emotions are big and stuff like that. So there's just tons of opportunity to speak into their life and give them a godly worldview and perspective. So
it's funny, and then I'll get to Neil.
Good.
I was reading this morning. I'm reading in Luke, and it's just the gospel, and Jesus is 12. He's gone to the temple, and his parents leave. They're probably all, it's communal, so they're leaving there, and they don't even realize that they don't have him until the end of the day, and so they have to travel back, and then they find that Jesus was in the temple with all of these religious leaders, and it says that they were astonished at his knowledge, and it says that he asked great questions, and it's fun to, as parents, just make sure that we have avenues where they go, hey, listen. Most of learning and discipleship is asking great questions, and so it's important for us as dads to have green lights. Hey, just want you to know that there's never a question that you can't ask. I'm happy to help you in any way that I can, and so sometimes when we don't ask those questions, it can be harmful, or we seek out the wrong places to get answers for those. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I read, I don't know if it's Parent or Parenting by, I think it's David Tyler Tripp. That book was really helpful. So like my focus right now with my kids is trying to help them understand the grace that I should extend to them, that Jesus has extended to me, and explaining that to them. Parenting, you have to parent. You have to sometimes lay down the law, and I'm trying to go, man, am I more law than I am grace, and how is that affecting my kids? And just being really aware of pointing my kids back to the grace and the mercy that they get to experience through Jesus, but also in through my parenting. And that book helped me kind of understand, hey, you're a messed up person. You are you need to be able to help your kids understand how messed up and broken they are as well, so that they understand the need. I can't change my kids. If it was easy enough that I could just say, hey, don't do that, and they did it, then we would have, it says it in the book, we would have no reason for Jesus. We can't do it on our own. And so that's the point, is I want to, and every conversation that we have, if it's interacting with, friends, or just, hey, we messed up, we didn't do that right, I want to do my best to point them back to Jesus and the need for Jesus in their life.
It's huge.
Hard to do, but that awareness is really big.
We can, if we're not careful, we'll just poke holes and see all the wrongs, and we won't connect before we correct them. And grace has to drive the day. I mean, every letter that Paul writes, he begins with grace. He begins with the gospel story, because we all need it and we all can forget it. And so that's super huge. Man, thank you guys for sharing that. I love that. And the book that Neil was talking about, it's called Parenting by Paul David Tripp. I think that's his name.
Oh, that's
Paul
it.
Yeah. 3 names. Kind of, it's one of those things. It's hard to remember.
Great book, man.
He's such an excellent writer. Got a lot of different books, but that's a great book on parenting. Today's episode is, we're continuing the second part of this series called Encounters with Jesus, and I just titled it Get Up. And we're going to look at an encounter Jesus had with a man at a pool. We're recording this in December. It snowed today. I've got a little bit of a cold, so we're a long way off from water and being in the sun.
I need an ice bath.
That's right.
What are you talking about? That's perfect weather.
That's right. Did you do that today?
I did it last week.
Okay. Yeah, I need to get out there and do that. I've got one.
It's awful.
But as you think about summer, guys, being in the sun at the pool, when someone says, hey, let's go to the pool, what comes to mind for you guys? I miss it, by the way. So,
how much stuff I'm going to have to carry.
Yeah. Fill up my wagon. Drag it to the pool.
It's my favorite thing.
Is it?
I love the pool.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than just sitting out in the sun, just enjoying nature, enjoying the pool. My kids are having fun. If I get too hot, I jump in the water. If I get too cold, I get out of the water and heat up again. I look forward to pool season like no other.
I do love it as well.
It is, man. If I'm like, I'm stressed, I know I'm just gonna go to the pool today.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It's nice. It's nice. Well, the story we're going to look at comes only out of John chapter 5. This encounter with Jesus is only recorded in the book of John. It's exclusive to his gospel. It's not found in Matthew, Mark, or Luke. And I'll just nerd out for a second. The first three gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, are called the synoptic gospels, which means through each of these gospel books are written by specific authors to specific audiences. The synoptic gospels are written with similar stories, a similar tone, similar order, not all the same, but similar. The synoptic gospels focus on what Jesus did, his teaching, his miracles that are absolutely necessary. And John's gospel is just different. He writes with a more unique purpose. John's primary focus is giving us a picture of who Jesus is. And in order to do that, he doesn't just follow a timeline. He uses selective encounters or pictures, these snapshots and these moments that highlight that Jesus is in fact the Son of God. He's the coming Messiah who came to rescue us. And we can have eternal life by putting our faith and our trust in him. And so John was an eyewitness to Jesus' life, his teaching, his miracles, his mission. He takes us back to an encounter that Jesus had in Jerusalem when he attended this specific Jewish feast, a snapshot of this encounter that led him to this pool of Bethesda. But this was not a pool party. They weren't playing music. They were sitting around sipping on drinks or laying out or putting on sunscreen, reading a book or relaxing. There were no kids playing in the pool, no Marco Polo. No one was in the pool. It was a day that was not about chilling or friends. The scene looks more like, in this setting, like a battleground. Scattered with wounded bodies and hurting people. Imagine a nursing home or an ER or a waiting room or a VA hospital or a chemo wing. This is the picture of all these people that are lying all around this really big, gigantic pool. And what did we probably hear in that moment? This endless wave of groaning and sickness and people anguish, that care about the people that they love, and crying babies and little kids and hurting people. And what you would witness in that scene in John 5 is this field of faceless need. Again, it's what I said last week on the first episode, is just with anybody who had any kind of sickness or paralysis or disease, they were believed that something was wrong with them, that they had sinned or that their parents had sinned, and they were cursed by God, punished by him. And because of that, society, even the religious side of society, they would marginalize them or ostracize them or exclude them or disregard them. And here's the crazy thing about this story. There was a rumor, a legend about this pool, and it's what brought all these people there that day with their loved ones and the people that they cared about that were sick. The legend about this pool is that there was something supernatural happening. Yeah. And people had heard that every year at this time, an angel would come down to visit this pool. And when the water, because no one's in it, when the water gets stirred, the first person in, whether you cannonball or you get shoved in, experiences a healing. Yeah. And from what I could read in my study, only one. And so not sure where this came from. But the reality is, even though it's not like this, there are plenty of other things that exist like this today. Yeah. And you probably have seen something on TV, some preacher late at night, or some religious show where it speaks of healing, that if you just did blank, then blank would happen, and it usually involves you sending a check with a promise of a miraculous healing. Mm-hmm. And they say things like, hey, if you have chronic migraines or debilitating illness, or you battle depression, or you struggle with overeating or overspending or some sort of addiction or disorder, if you'll just send this in or call this number, then we can do something about that. Desperation can move people to try about anything. And people do. I mean, from a diversity of different doctors and herbal products and alternative medicine and specialists. Again, I'm not saying that all those things are bad. Some of those things are really, really good. But man, desperation moves us to lots of different places. And the hope that something might work, or the pain would go away, or an addiction or disorder would disappear, the cloud of depression would go away. So we understand why people are drawn by the legend of this pool. And up top, I'm not saying that God can't heal people. He does all the time. We get to sit front row seeing God do this all the time in lots of different ways. And I'm not anti-medicine. I'm for medicine. My wife just celebrated 21 years, her cancer anniversary. And so I believe that God healed her, and he healed her through lots of different ways, including some great doctors and great medicine. And we also see lots of healings throughout the scriptures, especially in the Gospels. We see it again and again. But I've also been on the other side of praying for someone, or asking or pleading with God to move on someone's behalf, and then to see God not answer those prayers the way that I wanted them to. I've worked in the prayer rooms, and I've seen people anoint people with oil and asking, pleading for God to move, and he doesn't, and they die. But the reality is in the scriptures, there are plenty of people that kind of sell snake oil, or they claim to have some sort of divine power that they can heal in Jesus' name. And when people walk down that road, oftentimes they're worse off and they're more devastated. So I want to handle this specific story with a lot of sensitivity, but with a lot of truth and context. And so the prosperity gospel was found in pockets all over the world. And even though it's in direct opposition to what the scriptures tell us, the reality is that from the fall, there's been brokenness, and all kinds of things have gone on, and things that we don't even fully understand. And we also sit between the cross and the crown, between the is and not yet. And so when Jesus returns, he will make all things new, and he will redeem all things. But as I set up this story in John 5, I wanted to ask you guys if you've experienced either some things around the prosperity gospel, or people that lean really far away from God's truth and lean really, really hard toward the emotional side of supernatural healings or whatever. Have you experienced that? Have you had any kind of...
It's my childhood.
Okay, is that right?
Oh, man, I grew up in a church that was very prosperity gospel, heavy into that.
And explain that just for people maybe they're going,
more focused on the money, and the more you give, the more faith you have, the more that God's going to bless you. And there was chants that we would have, like when it was time to give, like you'd find checks in the mail, gifts and surprises, finding money. Like that was the chant that would happen at this. Highly emotional. And they prayed on that. You could tell by the culture of the church, it was highly emotional. And what happens with that is when the thing doesn't happen, your emotion then gets really high, and then you get frustrated. And then where does that frustration point to? Well, the one who didn't bless you because you gave. That's not right.
Or there's something wrong with you.
Right. Like that's
something wrong with your
what
faith.
did I do wrong? Did I not have enough faith? Did I? And it's like, you know what? That's not how it works. So I mean that was Lord knows how I am the way that I am now here. Like
that's how you grew up though.
Oh yeah, that's how I grew up, and I've even worked at a church that was like that. I was the one who put the slide up that had the chant on it, at one point. So
some unlearning for you. And
I knew it was wrong when I was doing it, but I had the job at the time, and I couldn't get out. I was trying to get out of it, but it's pretty gnarly, man. And it preys on people's emotions,
their pain, their emotions.
Yes, so frustrating. It gives them false hope.
Yes,
which is so wrong.
Yes. Mike, anything?
I've been around it some. Jesus culture concerts, and I don't want to throw shade or anything.
Sure,
but I remember several years back, or a few years back, Bethel, this movement of this little girl, Olive, that passed away. And that's what comes to mind. Like, it almost makes like our faith into a work. Like if you just have the faith, if you can strive enough, then you can make something happen with God's help. But there's a fine line there where it's like we cross it sometimes. It's like God can do it. It's not about you. you have to have faith, but you can't will it to happen. It's God's
Just
will.
because he can doesn't mean that he will in the way that you want him specifically to do it. We always go, oh man, God didn't fulfill that promise.
That's really
not in the way
good.
that you thought that he would.
Right.
You know, the ultimate healing maybe didn't happen on this side of heaven.
Yeah.
But it happened.
I read something just the other day. Do you mind if I share it?
Yeah, go for it.
It's the author says, I find myself concluding that what passes for charismatic healing is at one level a learned skill or technique. One learns to manipulate, even control a crowd through a variety of methods. These may include hypnosis, suggestion, and using the voice in special ways. The potential we have for the abuses we've all heard about come through a charismatic leader using these techniques for selfish ends. No longer is the aim to bring people to God, but to bring them to a state of vulnerability where they can be controlled or exploited in some way.
Yeah.
And you never see Jesus do that.
Yeah.
No.
You never see him do that. And there are moments where it even says, as you're talking about faith, Neil, it says if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, that you can ask this mountain to move. But the reality is, you know, sometimes what we think is if I just have enough faith, or if I just read my Bible and go to church, and everything that I want to happen is going to happen. And the reality is we live between the cross and the crown. And as much as we want people to be healed physically, and God did heal people, Jesus did heal people physically, everybody in the Gospels died. Lazarus is such a great story, but he dies again. And Jesus came for something so much more important and something larger. And again, I'm not saying that he doesn't heal people. I've been in moments, and again, crazy moments where people have come in and we've prayed for them, and they go to the doctor and they go, hey, we can't find this anymore. But I've also seen so many other types of healings that weren't even physical. I've seen guys walk away from addiction. I've seen guys from the jump go, you know what, I'm no longer, I have no taste for alcohol or drugs or pornography. I've also seen guys go, I'm on the road to healing. And it's a daily battle to let God heal me and work in me. And that's called sanctification. And so I don't want to muddy the waters, and I'm not we're not trying to bash anything. We just want to make sure that we try to do what we can to encapsulate what the scriptures say and the promises that God has for us. And we can ask him for anything. And sometimes those answers are no. And sometimes those answers are yes. And sometimes those are not yes, not yet. I mean, Paul, he 3 times, it says 3 seasons of his life, he asked God to remove this thorn from his side. And he basically said no. He said, my strength is made perfect in your weakness. My grace will be enough for you. And because one day he's coming back, and one day everything will be made new forever and ever and ever. And that's something that's super important for us. And so I just don't want us to get lost in, God's our vending machine. And we get really pissed or ticked because I keep pushing this button and it doesn't happen the way that I want it to. And there's lots of things.
Well, I think that's probably we'll probably get to it here, but that's the question. What happens when it doesn't?
Yeah.
What happens when your expectations aren't met?
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think a lot of us deal with and struggle with is we've, maybe bought into the snake oil or whatever, or we've bought into, or we've maybe misinterpreted scripture a little bit to be like, well, I have faith and I think it's about the size of a mustard seed and that mountain didn't move. What the heck?
That's right.
The answer or the question that a lot of people are probably going to have is, what am I supposed to do with it when the thing that I prayed for didn't happen?
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece that, that's why we have locker room. We want to talk about the right things in the right ways. Let's talk about maybe what that looks like.
Well, that's what's so damaging about this sort of thing where you're being emotionally manipulated in something and then it doesn't happen. And then what does that do to your faith?
Yeah.
If it begs the question of, is your faith strong enough to make this happen?
Yeah.
And then it doesn't happen, then...
Yeah, my faith has to be more than, hey, this is what I want and give it to me. It has to be, no, I trust your intentions for me, and you're a good father, and you love me, and you see me completely, and you're going to give me enough grace for this day, and then when I wake up tomorrow, enough grace for the next day. And sometimes healings come instantaneously. Sometimes they won't come until he comes back, or we close our eyes and open them up in glory. But is he enough? Is his plan good for me?
Yeah.
Can I trust him regardless?
Yeah.
And that's where this comes into.
Yeah.
So we'll dig into the story, John 5. I'll read this, and I apologize for it taking me a second to kind of get there, but you guys jump in if you notice something. John 5, 1-5. It says, afterwards, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holidays. Inside the city, near the sheep gate, was this pool of Bethesda with 5 covered porches. Crowds of sick people, blind, lame, and paralyzed, lay on those porches. And this is verse 4, so this is key. For an angel went down at a certain time into the pool and stirred the water, and then whoever stepped in first after the water stirred was made well of whatever disease he had. Verse 5, one of the men laying there had been sick for 38 years. So if you have your Bible open, and you may not, but if you did, your Bible may not have verse 4 in it. If you have NIV, NLT, ESV, then you'll see verse 3, and then you'll see right after that verse 5, no verse 4. Why is that? Well, the reason is because some of the ancient manuscripts of the Bible didn't have this idea of the angel coming down and stirring the water, but some did. Mm-hmm. I stuck it in here for context so that we have a reliable, and we do have reliable manuscripts that did include verse 4, but I think it helps us understand what's going on in this moment for the multitudes of people gathering at the pool that day. They weren't there to have fun or get some vitamin D. They were there to experience a miracle. So a couple things to dig out. The first one's not as obvious. The city of Jerusalem is swollen with people. It's buzzing. We're not sure which feast this is. I tried to figure that out. There are 3 feasts that people come that were Jews to celebrate. Passover, Pentecost, and the Feast of Tabernacles. Regardless of which feast, people come from all over to the Holy City to go and worship and celebrate. And what's interesting is you don't find Jesus there in the temple, there with all the crowds. He finds himself in the middle of this situation, Bethesda. And even the word at this pool of Bethesda, the word Bethesda means house of mercy. And so this place is filled with hurting people. He could have gone and saw all these really popular, influential people, but he's not there. Mm-hmm. He could have been where it was comfortable, but he doesn't. His eyes are always toward lost and broken people. And I think that's important for us to capture. And so as Jesus models that for us, the Gospels always moves us in close proximity and connection to hurting people. So why do we see Jesus? Because we see this over and over again in the Gospels. And why should that challenge us as men as it relates to our world as we try to live our lives on mission?
I mean, I think that Jesus is around all those people because he has the heart of the Father. And that's what we're called to have as well as men, a heart for people who are lost, who are broken. We've experienced the freedom we have in Jesus. And wouldn't we want that for those who are around us? And so Jesus sought those people out. He knew the need. He knows what it's like to be separated. And he wants to be able to get them closer to him, get them closer to the Father. And I feel like that's kind of what we're called to as well as followers of Jesus, is to be able to do that.
Yes.
And so it's, look at that. It's messy.
Yeah.
Good night. It's messy. I bet it stank.
I
bet the smell at that pool was unreal. Yeah. And it's uncomfortable to have to do those things. But that's what I love is his example is like, you don't see him shy away from it.
No.
You don't see him go, maybe that pool's better and that has better music and it's more, it is more the vitamin D and hanging out. But like, he embraces that. It's such a good example to kind of go, man, being called to be a follower of Jesus is messy. Yeah. It is full of brokenness and it's full of anguish and it's full of heartache. Yeah. But it's so worth it to be able to help bring those who are experiencing that closer to Jesus.
I love that. That's good.
I think he's modeling the fact that we need to be aware of and we need to see people in the margins and on the fringes, and then we need to serve them. And that's talked about over and over in the Bible, and it's interesting how, Jesus sees a physical need and he meets that need and then communicates a spiritual need.
That's right. That's right.
And it's just a very, if you have that physical need, you're already open and you're desperate, like you said earlier. You're desperate for healing. And so you're already in desperation, and he's got the answer. He's got what you need, and that's how he gives it.
Yeah, that's good.
There's an interesting thing in, it's Philippians. There's a part in the Message where it says, forget yourself long enough to lend a helping hand. That's good. There's something about what Jesus does, I think is really cool. He's not really about himself. He's always thinking and helping other people. And, we've experienced that in our family where we've been through our own troubles and heartache. And one of the best things that we could have done is to be able to get our eyes off of our situation and be able to help others around us. And
for sure.
Jesus never seems busy enough enough to not help those around him. That's what I love. He's just always looking out.
Yeah.
He's not looking here. I mean, he does do that. There is time for rest, but man, he's always looking out to see how he can help.
And as the Messiah who's come, and there's plenty of people that didn't see him, missed it. This was a great opportunity for him to get the word out about that he's there. So he could have totally been in all these temples, talking, connecting with all these people to get the word out, and he's not. He sees people that most people want to turn their eyes from and not engage. He's engaging them. So, and then the second thing I think is important is that it says Jesus walked through all these crowds. Just envision him going, "Excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, I'm so sorry, excuse me, pardon me." And then he gets to this guy who's been sick for 38 years. And for me, it's like thinking about your son asking these questions. It's like, why does Jesus do that? Why does he stop at this man?
Yeah.
It's a mystery a little bit, because was his situation worse than some of the others? I have no idea. I bet there were kids that were struggling and things going on for them too that were really heartbreaking for him. And he walks his way all the way to this one guy, and why is that? And I don't know. Maybe it's just the Father directed him there, and I'm guessing that this man had been sick from birth. I don't know that. Later in John 5, it says he was lying on a mat, which means he experienced some form of paralysis. We don't know if he was paraplegic, which means he was paralyzed from the waist down. We don't know if he's quadriplegic. His arms and his legs were immovable. But Jesus never asked about his diagnosis. It just says he was sick for 38 years. And so imagine, locker room, your wife, and some of you have these stories, or your son or your daughter, or maybe this is your story. And if we're not careful, we can just roll through that and blow through the importance of what it must have been like to be this man and what was really happening in this story. And so as you hear 38 years, this man, what comes to mind for you? How hard must that have been? And maybe there are examples of people in your lives that you care about that have a similar story. Can you think of anything?
Tired.
Yeah.
Hopeless.
Yeah.
Frustrated.
Yeah.
Man, I think I'd be pretty angry.
Yeah.
Just to go, why me?
Yeah. I
mean, I would be pretty self-absorbed to, again, be thinking I would be very inward focused, I think, at that point, just to have to go through that. That's the easy question, is just be like, man, this sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be pretty hopeless situation to come upon him.
Yeah, and you see all these people around you who are not dealing with what you're dealing with, and that's it doesn't seem fair, Yeah. We think like we're sick for a week, and
we act like babies.
Yeah. And that's what I think of. It's like 38 years, like probably his entire life, I can't imagine.
And trying to connect the dots from what's happened to him, who knows? Maybe he had an accident. Maybe he was working and something happened. And then he hears that God loves him, but yet he's in a broken state, and it feels like it's just never going to change. And so as you all think about your lives and your own story and your family, or maybe even some circumstances for you, is there anything specific or a season of life where you can identify with this man? You mentioned this, Neil, about him being angry with God. And there've been some pockets in my life where I felt angry with God, frustrated, going, why wouldn't you? This makes all the sense in the world. Why won't you intervene here and change it? And so can you think of anything, a heavy situation or a heavy season or being frustrated?
Yeah, I mean, we got a autism diagnosis for my daughter when she was 3. Yeah. And gosh, that moment will always forever stick out in my memory as one of the most difficult times, where I really truly felt like I wrestled with God.
Yeah.
I was wrestling with the fact of why her? Yeah. Why this diagnosis? Why all these different things? And I remember not knowing what to do with that. Right. Like, I was just so mad and so frustrated at what had to happen with my daughter. And one of my family members just kind of sat there, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. I am at my wit's end. I am freaking done. And she's like, tell him. Yeah. Tell him that. Yeah. And so I remember, man, I bawled. I was sitting on my couch, and I'm praying. I'm just going, I'm so frustrated right now with this.
Yeah.
And what I remember is what was said was, he's sitting there with you. He's frustrated too.
Yeah.
He's sad too. He's mourning with you as well in that.
Yeah.
And man, that was really comforting. He's not just this plaything sitting up here pulling the strings and all this.
Puppet
He's
master.
sitting, the Savior of the world is sitting with you going, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That sucks. Yeah, it does suck.
Yeah.
I want to be with you. And man, for me, I had to tell him that sucked, but then I got to sit in just the peace that came with it, to know that he's there with me.
Yeah.
That made it a little bit easier. Still at times is a little bit difficult,
Sure.
but to know that I'm not alone, that he's sitting there. That's something that I try and tell anyone going through a hard time is, it sucks.
Yeah.
But man, he's sitting there with you going, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
I'm with you though.
Yeah.
She's a great kid, man.
I love her.
She's
the best, man.
She's so talented.
Yeah.
Man. And it's one of those things I trying to even understand what that would be like in your situation, just to go, why her, why us? And we don't feel ready or capable. Overwhelmed.
Yep.
But man, it's cool to watch you guys navigate that and parent her. And she seems so confident, and she's so talented.
It's so cool to see how God's been using that as well.
Yeah.
Teaching me stuff through her, and letting her be an example to other families who've been going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, he's redeemed and continues to redeem that story.
Yeah.
Where most people, hear the diagnosis, and we get a lot of people going,
Yeah.
oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I freaking love that kid and the example that she is for other families as well. And, the hope that we can extend to other family members and help them walk through the same depression and anxiety and frustration that we went through.
Yeah.
That's the redemptive story of that diagnosis. The only thing that changed about my daughter was the diagnosis. She's still an amazing, incredible child and child of God. And he sees her and loves her just the same way that I do.
Yeah. I know that our locker room community probably doesn't know, but she's been in some videos at church, and she is so...
Oh, she's great.
She's so good.
Yeah.
I don't know what God's going to do in her life, but she's going to make a big splash. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
How about you, buddy? Anything?
Yeah, for me, it would be going through divorce, serving in ministry for, 12 years before that happened. Yeah. And the frustration of, feeling like, why did this happen to me? Like, and I'm saying this to God, like I've given up, all these things to try to serve the church and serve you, and now this, and the impact that it has, like, on the church family that we were a part of at the time, like trying to reconcile that and just the extreme guilt I felt for that, and, it's like this just destroys any example that I was trying to set, and all of those feelings and stuff, and eventually getting to the point where I felt like, well, I'm not worthy to do this. Not that I ever was. None of us are.
No, I'm with you.
But having to reconcile that, like, it's no different. I'm right back where I started. Yeah. I'm not worthy. I'm not. So that was a season of definite, like, frustration and lots of real conversations with God, and like literally shaking my fist down.
I was just going to say, when the gloves come off, man, the prayers that you think that you know how to pray, they get real. And I love that about him. God doesn't shy away from that.
Yeah.
God wants to hear from you. He wants to hear you say it. And if that means you're mad, tell him that.
Yeah, it's okay.
I would
say that out loud.
Yeah, I would even say through those times, that's like when your faith becomes the most real.
Yeah.
Because it is real and raw. Yeah. And that's what, God knows you that way anyway. It's just that you try to hide yourself from him.
It's not like God looks at you and goes, I don't really want to deal with that right now.
Yeah.
He knows. Yeah. I won't go into mine in great detail, but even before that, church can be pretty hard on divorce staff. And sometimes just making decisions quickly without even knowing the details and what really has happened, and they can just cut people loose quickly. And so I'm so thankful that God saw you and protected you and all of that. But we battled infertility and don't know why. Still don't know why. And I remember being in our basement in Lexington, and Sarah was gone somewhere, and I just remember just being so frustrated. I was yelling and cursing and frustrated, and there's some stuff in my journal that I probably wouldn't want read publicly, and not knowing why, and it led to a heart for adoption. It led to 3 girls that are all miracles. I just had one turn 13 just this past Sunday.
Awesome.
And, not knowing why, but trusting him in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's hard, and it's important to be honest, just like you were saying. Hey, God, I'm mad at you. He's big enough.
Yeah.
He's big enough. The Psalms, Psalm 10, 12, 22 are great Psalms that just remind us that, David's going, I'm pouring out my heart. Why is this happening to me? And why have you forsaken me? And why do my enemies triumph over me? And then at the back end of each of these Psalms, it says that you're good or your faithfulness lasts through generations. There's something about David working out this stuff with God. And somehow in the journey of processing through that, he because he's connected with him, he feels the heart of the Father. And that's super, super important. Man, I thank you both for sharing 2 really hard stories in your life that are important. So John 5 and 6, this is the conversation that Jesus has with this guy. Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time. He asked him, this is a crazy question, do you want to get well?
Yeah.
Verse 7, sir, the invalid replied, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. Why? While I'm trying to get in, someone else gets in front of me. And so he's probably tried to do this year after year, And at face value, when Jesus asks this question, it feels really silly and insensitive of Jesus. Do you really want to get well? Because, and I don't know why he asked it that way, but maybe it's because Jesus knew something about this man that we didn't know. I don't know. Maybe it's because this man has put his faith in this legend or this pool instead of the person of God. Maybe Jesus' heart was so broken by the multitudes of people, hundreds of sick people there that are putting their faith in this legend, this fairy tale, instead of the powerful work of the Father. I don't know, but here's the truth on the other side of that question. Do you want to get well? And we know this because we spend time with people. Not everybody wants to get well. They say they want to get well, but they don't really want to surrender or let go of or go take the biggest courageous steps. They don't really, I want the feelings of being well, but I want to hold on to this, and there's control or there's just a lack of surrender or fear of what might happen if they do, all those things. And so when you hear the question, do you want to get well, like what comes to mind for you, and what do you think Jesus is asking this man?
Are you willing to do the work?
Yeah.
You willing to actually do what it takes to get well?
Yeah.
Or is it really easy to talk about it?
Yeah. We live in a world where right now with a lot of woke theology is that I identify as a victim, I hide behind that wall, and I rationalize my behavior. And you don't get to tell me what I need to do. And it's killing us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Jesus never wanted us to be our identity to be wrapped up in what's happened to us or how we were born. It's about Imago Dei. It's about made in his likeness, in his image. And when the enemy wants to whisper, hey, you are your worst mistakes or your depression or your addiction or whatever that is. And Jesus never says that.
No,
He goes,
minimizes the power of the cross.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
He went on the cross.
Yeah. For us.
For us.
Yeah.
What circumstance do you think that you've been through that he couldn't redeem?
Yeah. What's too big for him?
Yeah.
When you hear the word, do you want to get well? Anything jump out at you?
Yeah, I mean, you said it, surrender, like, are you willing to surrender?
Yeah.
Stop striving.
Yeah.
I heard this in a sermon because these words rhyme, but stop striving and start abiding, rely on God's power because you're probably not strong enough to do it on your own.
Sure.
You've probably tried a bunch of times,
If you could, it would have worked.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Sometimes our excuses are our biggest obstacles to the things that God longs to give us.
Yep.
I've listened to a lot of guys, and I do this a lot, who are so covered up in either shame or their circumstances, and they give me all the excuses. Hey, I didn't grow up with a dad in my life. That's why I'm not a good man, or I can't get a job. I didn't get a college degree, or I've tried to lose weight and get healthy. Everybody in my family is overweight. You don't understand. Everyone in my family has an anger problem.
You don't understand. Oh, man,
Yeah. I've tried to quit. I've been to AA and NA. I just didn't like it. Or I went to marriage counseling once or one season, and I didn't like the counselor. I didn't like what they said, and it didn't change our marriage. Or I tried church and went a couple times, and nothing happened. And the truth is, we're looking for these microwave moments where, and our quit button is just too big, and we're impatient. We didn't get quick results. We didn't get quick fixes. And because of that, we just punt the ball. Or we forget that, hey, we journeyed for decades into this, these woods, and we want to get out in 5 minutes. And it's like, that's not how this works. There's a journey to healing and being made whole. Jesus longs to get us on that road, but it's going to take time.
The analogy I've heard with that, the walking into a forest, is you walked into a forest blindly for 5 years. And you turn around and think that you can just get out even in 5 years. You're completely lost and your direction's bad. It's not just because it took you 5 years. It may take you even more. It's not like a turnaround and you're out. You're lost. You got to do the work to
you
get
don't even
out
know
of
the
there.
way out.
You don't even know the way out. You can't find your way back.
Sometimes even people are looking to give Jesus just one part, this one part that I'm struggling with, and Jesus is going, hey, I hear you, but I need all of you.
All of it,
I want all of your heart. I don't want just your marriage situation. I want control of your life. I want to be your Lord and Savior. I want to begin the work that I created you to be a part of. And so the question, do you want to get well, is a great question. And again, maybe Jesus is going, hey, why are you at this pool? I don't know, but here's what I mean. It's similar to married couples that have trouble in their marriage, and they run into the secular bookstore and they buy all these books or listen to all these secular podcasts, and then they digest all these things, and then they go, it's not better. Or they try to manage symptoms, but it never addresses the root. And marriage is covenant, and God is the author and creator of covenant, and He's the best person for us to lean in to figure out how to honor one another that way. Or it's the parent, or it's a man who has anger issues, and he goes to these classes, but he never really addresses the pain that's on the inside of him that God's actually trying to eradicate from his heart through forgiveness and through healing. Or it's the parent who focuses on behavior modification. They just want their kids to act right. And it's about their actions, not about the heart, about the root issue, which is that God made them. He has a plan for them. Jesus died for them, and He has a great plan that He wants to usher us in and through. But we focus on morality, and we never really capture our kids' hearts. Or it's a person who battles addiction. They show up at these meetings without considering the life change and transformation is not in the steps. It's in the Savior. Or it could be someone who's been sick for a long time, and for whatever reason, faith has not been a part of the issue, or has not been a front and center thing for them. It's about faith in doctors, or faith in medicine, or faith in science, without acknowledging the God of the universe who gave all that stuff to us. A broken marriage, a wayward child, an angry, infused heart, a crippling addiction, or a debilitating illness without engaging with Jesus will always lead us down an unfulfilled path and an unfulfilled journey. And so pursuing these things apart from Him will leave people more frustrated and more stuck and more overwhelmed. He's the only one that can help us do this work. And so anything you guys want to share? I know we just hit a lot of ground there. Anything that comes to mind for you?
I mean, that's the that's the business that we're in. We got we and many of our viewers and many in our church have found the answer to that, and it's Jesus. And that's the hope He's the hope of the world. And that's we have that, and we need to share that. That's, to me, it puts everything you just said, it puts the burden on me. That's why I feel is we need to communicate that. We need to, whatever means necessary. We've got to get that word out there and that hope out there. So.
2 words come to my head when I listen to all of that is all in. You have to be all in. This isn't part of me. This isn't, a little section of me. This isn't only the things that I need you to fix, because there's probably a lot of things that you don't even know that you need to have fixed.
Yeah.
It's an all-in thing with Jesus. And
that.
if you give him a part or give him half or give him just a little section, you will never experience the wholeness that he is here to give you.
Yeah.
Don't give him a part and expect for a whole back. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
He wants wholesale change.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you don't get that by giving little sections. And it's hard.
Yeah.
Like let's not beat around the bush.
Surrender's
like
hard.
it's hard to do those type of things.
Yeah.
But that's where the wholeness, that's where the completeness, that's where the healing happens.
Yes. I'm laying it all at your feet, and I'm going to trust that you know what's best and you want what's best and you will do what's best for me.
Yep.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, I may think this because I'm a guy, but I think it's especially hard for guys. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I do.
Yeah, we're achievers and we problem solvers.
We want to fix everything.
Yeah.
In no way, shape, or form do I want to admit that I'm wrong or that there's something wrong with me.
That's good.
That is one of the hardest things to do. It's the biggest
really
part
good.
of my marriage that I've realized with my wife. When I'm doing like a construction project or something like that.
Yeah.
I did a kitchen at our house. I remodeled the whole thing. And before we even went into it, I just know this about myself. I looked at my wife and I said, the thing that will make me the most angry is when I feel like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That is the same in our relationship with Jesus. That is the same in life. We are men so insecure. And the more the quicker we can get to that, the easier it'll be to go, okay, I'm mad because I feel inadequate. I'm mad because I feel like I'm not being the man that I think I'm supposed to be. And guess what? I'm not.
Yeah.
You've said a couple times, I don't feel worthy. Guess what? You're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
None of us are.
Yeah,
That's why
Jesus
what
makes
Jesus
us
is
worthy.
for.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's so good. Yeah, that's so good. So he responds to the man. And we're not even sure if this man even knows who Jesus is. But in verse 8 it says, Jesus looks at him and says, get up, pick up your mat, and walk. So Jesus looks at this guy that's been defeated and overwhelmed by his condition for 38 years. And this man's eyes move away from the pool to the person of Jesus. And Jesus says, hey, get up, pick up your mat and walk. And he's calling him away from all these other things to this relentless, raw, honest with God, put your trust in Jesus. And he doesn't say that Jesus never tells him, hey, you're healed. He just invites him to trust him and to rightly place our trust in his power. And there's something beautiful that happens in our lives when we really go all in and we lay everything down. He does something in the midst of our difficult circumstances, and he calls us always to do something and step out and trust him. And so at verse 9 it says, at once the man was cured. And he picks up his mat and he walks. And it's interesting, it says at once. Like, what do you mean, at once what? It's like, well, I guess after the man got up, after he went, I got to decide, because you're telling me I can get up. I got to decide if I really believe that I can get up. Yeah. And when he does get up, it says he was cured. And he picks up his mat and he walks. I mean, how must that have felt to not walk for 38 years or for all of your life? And not to mention all the other people that are at this pool.
Sure, yeah.
That are going, wait. It's not the pool, it's the person over there. But he only heals one person. It's so interesting. And we can't even touch that today. But a couple things to talk about.
Yeah.
The healing of this man and the power that comes from this encounter with Jesus. The power that comes from when Jesus tells us to get up. And how crucial our trust and obedience is. That opens the door to God's power in our lives. Talk a little bit. I know there's a lot. I threw a lot on you guys, but what jumps out at you as you think about that encounter and what he said?
I'll talk about the question of get up. I like the idea that there's a response piece to that.
Yeah.
He didn't just say get up and the guy laid there and he was like, nah, I'm good. Like, you have to respond to what Jesus is calling us to. Yeah. That's the thing that I think is maybe the hard thing that guys aren't willing to do.
He had a choice.
Yeah, you do have a choice in this. Yeah. You could say, I want to get better, and then not get better by not taking action or by not doing the things that you know you need to do in your life. You have to respond. That's what I love about Jesus. Yeah. And what about like God's story is it's a choice that we get to make. He doesn't throw Jesus at you and go, he's yours. You have him now. He's your savior, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You have to choose.
Yeah.
And that in making that choice and then taking action of what that actually means is the hardest part.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good.
I agree. That's what I was going to say too, is just like faith it's active and not passive. You know,
it's not just I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm putting all my weight on. I'm all my chips go in, but I am going to put all of my weight, meaning everything in my story, my past, my present, and my future. All of my weight gets put on Jesus. That's super.
Yeah,
important.
Jesus promises that he'll walk with us, not for us.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. That's
like
good.
we have to walk with him. You know, so it requires.
Wait, so on the sand when there's the 2 footprints and it turns into one, it really should just stay 2.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he does carry us.
For me, there's probably some feet that look like it's just being drugged.
For
He's
sure.
dragging me.
You're actually
Come
going
on,
the
man.
opposite direction.
It's
You're running.
okay.
and-
Come on, get up.
Yeah,
I got you.
Well, so that's another piece is, yes, it is a response. I would also say it's a responding. It is a continual.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You don't just make that choice one time, like, you know what? Yes, I'm going. And then all of a sudden, now some people, like you had said, some people it is a miraculous encounter. And man, it's that one time you're like, whoo, good to go. I'm done.
Unbelievable.
But for some of us,
Yeah.
it is a continual, daily responding to Jesus' request of get up.
Yeah.
To make that decision to daily walk in that.
Yeah.
That I think maybe that's another piece that men or people just struggle with is like, well, no, I said yeah, I'll get up.
Yeah.
But now you're asking me to do more. Well, yeah, step 1, get up. And then he'll work with you. But like, it's a continual decision making that you have to do. Don't think just because you made that choice one time, you came down to the altar call and, oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Sanctification.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's that process.
That's huge, man.
sure.
That's huge. Yeah, I mean, some guys that I mean, they're addiction, alcohol, drugs, whatever. They have no taste for it anymore, and I love that. And there's some guys that, you know what, they still do, and every day's a battle.
Yep.
And what's important for us is that, hey, Jesus doesn't just want to be our Savior, our little miracle worker. He wants to be Lord. And so sometimes in the sanctification process that you're talking about is he didn't remove that from us because he knows that if he just removes it, then we'll just go back and start thinking we'll forget about him.
Yep.
And he's like, hey, I need you to know that I am your source. I'm the bread of life. I am the one that's going to carry you through and help you walk through things. And so it's just going to be daily battle, because one day we'll get glorified new bodies, and one day all that stuff will be gone. It will all be washed away. But until then, it's battle and dependence upon Jesus. Anything else?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a question. It's personal, and it may have nothing to do with either of the situations that you both talked about personally, but has there been a time in your life where Jesus was like, hey, I need you to get up here? He's calling you out of a circumstance or out of a situation or out of a relationship. And if so, what did that look like? And how did Jesus meet you in the middle of that?
Mine was laying down my pride in my marriage.
Gotcha.
My wife and I had been married for, again, 16, 17 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And about 7 years in, we really struggled.
Yeah.
Diagnosis with our daughter, just a lot of stuff going on, man. We really struggled. And one of the things that was called out in my own life was I had a pretty big problem with pride.
Yeah.
And that was something Jesus was calling me out of.
Yeah.
Calling me to humility and how I serve my wife and how I love my wife and I love my family. And again, it's not something that I liked to hear.
Yeah.
I liked the way that I was. I was pretty good at what I did and who I was. And to be able to have to change that and understand that that's, a part that Jesus is calling me to do, man, that's a process that I couldn't do on my own. I needed men in my life to continue to call that out in me. It's something I had to talk to my wife about, to kind of go, hey, I've messed up here and I need you to, one, I'm asking for forgiveness, but two, like, help me. Yeah. I can't do this on my own. Yeah. As men, you are not meant to do life alone. No. You cannot do it on your own. So you need to surround yourself with folks who can walk alongside you, that community, the people who will reach out to you when you don't know that you need it. That's a big, important piece of it. And what Jesus did is he helped me understand that it's okay that I have these things as long as it's like when you have the acknowledgement that there is a problem.
Yeah.
Do something with that, and he'll meet you there.
Yeah.
Oh, my marriage is the best it's been in my, like, all these years later, I'm looking at it going, gosh, I'm more in love with this woman than I've ever been. Our marriage is stronger than it's ever been. But it wouldn't have been that way had I not had that come to Jesus moment. And Jesus not go, I'm not leaving you here on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do this together, man. Let's make this better together.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. Acknowledging those things and surrendering those things and asking for forgiveness. Our wives know that we're not perfect, even though we try to
Speak for
hide.
yourself.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But no, that's so good, Neil. What about you?
Yeah, for me, it's related to the divorce and stuff again. But after divorce, stayed on staff at the church I was at for a couple years after that, and just got to a point of like extreme burnout and a lot of like I was saying earlier, just a lot of like shame and guilt, and not feeling worthy to lead anybody, because I felt lost and just felt like I had nothing to give. And so I stepped away from that church and I went and I worked at Toyota for like 18 months on the line, met some awesome dudes.
Yeah.
But probably 6 months into that, I felt the Lord saying, you're not useless to me. And he was calling me back to some form of ministry. I didn't know what. Sure. And there was a ministry at Toyota.
Sure.
I had tons of great conversations with the guys, but a little part-time worship leading job, came available, and I just wrestled with that a ton. And God, I felt like was telling me, like, get up, it's time to go. Like, I got something for you. And I just wrestled with that a ton. And then, I just came to the point where I'm like, shut up, Satan. I was so sick of him, like accusing me and just lying to me. And so
God was healing you, and he was going, hey, I'm not done with you.
Yeah.
I mean, we really do. We have such a high view of ourselves that it's like he only uses broken people because it's all that he has.
Yeah.
And I can see how the enemy would want to just keep you on the ground and keep you stuck in loss and feeling like failure or shame. And it's like God's going, I'm going to bring you over to Toyota, and I'm going to start pouring into your life, and I'm going to give you some space to breathe and connect with me. And then I got an assignment. And you may not even have been all the way healed up. And he's going, but you're on the road. But you're on the road to healing. And that's how good God is. It's super cool. I wonder how often God is calling us to get up. I just wonder. I wonder, does he say that a lot? I think about the kid that's losing their mind in the grocery store, and the parents are like, get up. And so I'm over throwing a fit, and he's going, hey, I'll wait on you, buddy. But I wonder if he tells us, hey, I want you to get up and connect with me in my word. Yeah. Or I want you to get up and just make yourself available to the promptings of the things that I want to tell you or I want you to do. Get up from your shame and regret and strongholds and seek his help for healing in your life. To get up and move away from comfort and move toward the uncomfortable places in our own story and the uncomfortable places in other people's stories. Get up and partner with Jesus and just engage those around us and go toward where lost and broken people are, because that's where Jesus is. To leave our shame, to leave the places where we felt stuck or overwhelmed, and to put our complete trust, not part of it, but all of it, and just surrender it all, as you said, Neil, all in, and trust him and him alone. Sometimes I think we're trying to figure out a sign, and maybe this is your sign today, and God's just saying, hey, I need you to get up.
Yep.
Get up and go move toward the areas of your life that are hard. Marriage stuff, family stuff.
And don't get overwhelmed by all that.
Yeah.
You can make that decision and not know what the next 15, 20, 30 steps are. Sometimes that's like you get into decision fatigue because you're thinking, well, if I do this, then I have to do this and this and this and all these other things. Just take it one day at a time. Take it one step at a time. Get up one time, and then If you need to, get up another time and keep doing that thing. I see that a lot in guys. Like, well, if I do this, then I got to do all these things. Well, just focus on this one first. Maybe you don't have to. You don't know what the future is going to look like. You don't know what the Lord's going to do in your life. Just make that first step. Do the next right thing.
Yeah, let me develop a big strategic plan. It's like, or you could just get up and serve your wife.
Yes.
You could get up and go, hey, I'm sorry. Hey, I've not done this well. I want this to be different, and so help me to be better.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever that looks like, So I think some of it's getting up and getting connected with a group of other men. It's so funny with Fight Club. There's so many guys that have never been in a group before, and it's like the things I have them write on an index card, just the things that were really challenging for them and meaningful, and how they're different. And so many of them talk about community, and I had no idea, or I lived on an island, or I lived in isolation, or I didn't feel worthy. And then I get around other guys, and I learned that, they're just like me. They struggle with different things, or sometimes the same things, but we have to get up and do something about it with Jesus' help. And when you can find a group of men that are seeking the same things or running in the same direction, man, it is life-changing. And so I want to challenge you, whatever the Holy Spirit's telling you to do, where do you need to get well? And do you want things to change? And do you want to experience the breakthroughs in whatever circumstance you're going through? And here's the deal, locker room, you're smart people. And if a little tweak here or there would have fixed it, you already would have done that years ago. And so the big statement, I think, is you cannot change what you're willing to tolerate. And so it comes with a decision to trust God and surrender your whole life to Him. And when He says, get up, just take a step.
Yep.
So we're wrapping up. But any final thoughts you guys have or challenge points for men today? Again, this are brand new believers or people that are wrestling with Christianity, people that are struggling, people are trying to do the right thing. So anything that comes to mind as we kind of wrap this one up?
I mean, I think a good action piece, we read about Jesus meeting a physical need to open a spiritual awareness or conversation. I mean, there's so many ways we can do that, with our neighbors, helping them with whatever they're doing, so many ways. That would be my challenge, is like look for those, especially with people that need Jesus, and don't know Him.
Sometimes we just want to go la 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 la, and it's like, hey, God's put this person in your life, and they're talking to you about their life because He actually planned that out in advance. And so partner with Him right here and lean in and just engage and just love. And you have to have all the answers, but just be available and encourage, that type of thing. Anything, Neil?
Yeah. You're not special.
That's right.
You're not the only one who's gone through this one situation ever in your own life, and no one else is ever going to understand what you've gone through because you're the only one who's ever gone through it. So find people that you can get into community with. You talked about at the very top of this. We got locker room groups. We got Fight Club. We've got all these different groups that you can be a part of. I don't care what you get into. Get into one.
Yeah, just take a step.
Do not live life in isolation. It is one of the most unhealthy things that you can do is to be like, it's no one ever understands me. It's not the case. And you see that in Fight Club all the time, man. As soon as you get into a group of guys, you're like, oh, crap, I'm not the only one who's dealing with this. You're not special. Get into a group. Get community. Do not isolate. It's not worth it.
Yeah, the devil does his best work whenever we're isolated.
Yes.
That's good. Yeah. Hey, listen, you guys are awesome. This has been a great podcast. I love talking to you guys about this stuff. Super grateful for you both. Thank you for the way that you serve. Appreciate your friendship, and I love getting to do this with you. So I'll close with a couple questions. Where's Jesus asking you to get up? Do you trust Him? Do you trust His intentions for your life? Do you trust that He sees you, knows what you're going through? Do you trust that He'll be enough for you? What are the areas in your life that you need to just surrender? And what step is God calling you to take? And with all that you are, take the step. And whether it's checking out a church or jumping into a group or getting a counselor or having a conversation or just being mindful of the world around you, do that.
Get up.
So, get up. Jump into a locker room group, start a group, go to Danville, meet us down there January 20th to do Fight Club. If this podcast has encouraged you, I'd love to hear from you. If you're wrestling with Christianity, would like to become a Christ follower, want to know more about baptism, or need help taking your next step, send us an email at lockroom@southland.church. I get emails all the time, and happy to respond and help you in any way that I can. And
he means that.
Yeah, I do.
He actually responds to text messages and the emails and all the things. So like when you email lockerroom@southland.church, you're not just getting some, coordinator or admin who's like, oh, maybe you're actually getting this dude right here who is so all about helping men live with Jesus and live them well. So like he says that at the end of the podcast, take that seriously. Yeah. Because he means it. Yeah. I've seen it played out in friends of mine who have reached out to you recently, and I've gone, holy cow, it was so quick and real. So if you're actually struggling, don't just take that as like, oh, well, maybe you're getting him. Yeah. And it's a great conversation to be able to have.
If I don't know the answer, I'll find it. I'll get some help. It's okay. But
it's true.
I can be helpful typically.
Yeah.
So but hey, and as always, if this podcast has encouraged you, I think it's important that we always look around. Who are the people in our lives that need it? And so whether it's a son or son-in-law or a friend or somebody at work, whatever, feel free to share this stuff with people that you care about. I think that's really helpful. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch you next time on Locker Room. Have a good one.